As we look ahead to Easter and all the work involved for the various seasonal activities, I have a question for you. Last year, how many people came back to your church the Sunday following these events, and how many of them have a continuing relationship with your church today? If your answer isn't all you'd like it to be, I've got a proven and successful strategy to change that. Hi, I'm Yvonne Pren from Effective Church Communications, and I want to share with you successful seasonal strategies, how to grow your church in numbers and your people in spiritual maturity. In a world not interested in church, how do you get people to visit in person or online? An invitation to come to church is not always welcome these days, but everybody loves a party. Churches put on great parties and events, and we have opportunities all year round to invite people. You get a big turnout, people love them. You can't wait to welcome all the new people to church, in person or online the following week. However, the following week after your event, it's often back to church attendance as usual. There's little increase in numbers, few ongoing connections with the many visitors who came to your special event. And afterwards, we ask ourselves and our team many questions. What went wrong? How can we do better next time? It's easy to get very discouraged. But stop! I don't want you to be discouraged. This lesson will teach you a proven strategy that will increase the number of people coming back to your church after your event, and it will also grow your people in spiritual maturity. Here's what you're going to learn: a comprehensive new process, the all-church team that's needed to pull it off, the multi-channel communication tools that will connect people with the event, plus I've got lots of additional resources, links in the notes, and things on the Effective Church Communication site, including templates, pre-done publication materials, not only in print, but I'm adding more and more all the time some social media ones for you. So do go to the effectivechurchcom.com site and check out what's there. In addition, I have one other resource for you, and that is the ebook, Successful Seasonal Strategies. It's important for everybody on staff and volunteers associated with your special events to be on the same page philosophically and ministry-wise. And because of that, when you purchase the ebook, I'm granting you permission, and I can do this because I'm the author and producer, to make as many copies as you want. And you can either print them out or you can send them to people digitally. But I do want all of your team to be thinking, praying, and working in the same way. And if you all have a copy of this, you'll be able to do that easily. But let's get back to the process now. The typical process for special events and holiday celebrations, and we're using Easter as an example here, is for people to see the event as an end in itself. Everything goes towards putting on that event. All communications, all volunteer efforts focus on the event, whether it's a celebration, an outreach, a party, whatever it is. Unfortunately, though, when that's the entire focus, when it's over, it's over. And often, so is the involvement of the people outside the church. That is, until the next event. Now, this is how my strategy actually changed in doing events that way in church. When my husband was pastor of single adults at a growing church, the church did lots of community outreach. We did trunk or treat in the fall, we did an Easter egg hunt, we did a dessert, and a real theater quality production at Christmas, and just lots of other things in between. We also did a lot with our singles group, outreach parties, etc. They were all successful. People had a great time. We had a great turnout. But the following weeks, not so much. Then I learned why. At one event, I was chatting with a single woman who was telling me how much she enjoyed the events that the church put on. She had been to a number of them, and so I asked her. I said, "What service do you come to on Sundays? We have a single adult group that meets at 10:30 that you might enjoy." She looked at me in a very surprised way and said, "You do something here every week?" I thought all the church did was host special events for the community. that really happened. And that's when I realized that we needed to do more if we want to connect with visitors on an ongoing basis. That's where this class came from and all the materials that are related to it. In the years since I developed this system as a way to respond much more effectively to people who come to our parties. This system's been used by churches all over the world, and it really works to grow churches in numbers and the people involved in spiritual maturity. Now, keep in mind overall that this is a strategy course. Specific advice on the website, YouTube channels, and all of the other things will give you information on how to do specific strategy also for the different holidays. But keep in mind that for this one and the others, it is not a design course. I do have, as I said, templates and free publications for you. Maybe you'll like them. A lot of people do. Many people download them. But you may not like how I design things. You might think, ooh, that's really icky. That doesn't fit for us. And that's not a problem. Design things your way. Design depends on locations, preferences, the times we live in. Design styles change. So if you want to use my designs, great, but that's not what's important. What's important is the strategy that I teach you. That strategy is what is timeless. Above all, take what's here and apply it to your specific situation, your culture, your church size, and today the digital preferences at your church. But keep in mind that multi-channel communications, doing things in print, in video, in social media, in all of the above, are really important if you want to reach all of the people in your church and in your community. Now I'm going to share with you the benefits of a new comprehensive process that is probably somewhat different than what you've done in the past. Easter again is our example. Here is the old way. Lots of efforts and communications are created to get people to the event. Everything is directed towards the one goal. Postcards, door hangers, I have a Lenten calendar, all kinds of things that churches create, and they're all wonderful. They're all very useful. They get lots of people to the Easter service. The challenge is, once again, if you only do that, everything stops when people come to your event. Instead, you want them to see the event as the connecting point between your church and the Christian faith and Jesus. You want to introduce people to and involve them with your church, not just have them come one time and then leave. Now, this is essential because we assume that just because we host a great party or an inspiring celebration online or in person, that people will think the church is wonderful and will come back to church the next week. But unchurched people or infrequent guests have no idea what the church does on a regular basis or when they do it. They have no idea kids club exists or that a regular church service starts at 10:30, or in the example that I gave earlier, that we have a single adult group going on, or whatever other groups or activities you have, or anything about your social media and how to connect with you digitally. Just coming to your event, they won't know any of that. Instead of everything leading to the one event, you need a comprehensive process that includes multi-channel communications before the event to invite them to the event, during the event, and this is so important. You've got to explain what's going on, explain your church, you want to connect with them, you want to enable them to take the next step in discovering your church and Jesus. And afterwards, you want to continue the connection. You want to invite them back, you want to answer their questions. Now, here's how it can work. Here are some examples. Here again, before people come to your service, you can send out postcards, you can do door hangers, you can do all kinds of social media, you can do things for Lent, just lots and lots of things before the service. Then, during the service, this is what's really important. You want to explain what's going on at your church. You can have event created communication cards. For Easter, you can have things like I have on the website, the jelly bean prayer. People just love that. I have sort of a little teaser thing that you can give out as a handout, is saying something like, after you've chewed the ears off the chocolate Easter bunnies, you might think back to the church service and wonder, did Jesus really rise from the dead? And then you can use that as a lead-in to invite people to some events after your Easter service. And then after it's all over, I have a whole group of communications also that you send to people. You can follow up with social media, you can follow up with email, you can follow up with postcards, invite them to Latte with a Pastor, invite them to a series of classes, invite them to a question and answer thing. One thing that a church did in Colorado Springs that was extremely effective is one of the larger churches there. It was a tradition that the Sunday after Easter, the pastor preached a sermon on the reality of life after death. That service ended up being just as popular as Easter, and it was another way for them to connect with people and the community. Again, there are many free templates and all kinds of materials that go with them at www.effectivechurchcom.com. Now, here's why this comprehensive process works so well. It's realistic. Attendance at one event, online or in person, is not enough to form a lasting connection. The church, faith, Jesus is all new to many. Unchurched people know less today than at any time in recent history about what churches do. Sunday school or kids club, the Sunday service, that other special things are going on, all the digital ministries, visitors have no idea what it's all about, when it happens, or why they should care if free food and fun aren't part of it. For this comprehensive process to work, though, you need two things. One, you do need multi-channel communications every step of the way. There are so many options that we have today in print, digital, web, social media, whatever. And it's not a question of which one of these communication channels do you use. If you want to reach people today, you need to use all of them. It's not a time of either or. It's a time of both and in our communications. Every church, every audience needs every channel. Now, some more than others. Some churches, more people are into digital media, some more print. But I guarantee that in every church and in your communities, there is a mixture of what will work with different people. Now, this leads us to the necessity of the second need, which is you need an all-church team to pull this off. Now, fortunately, you've already got them there. They're all there in place. First of all, you need your church leaders. They're the ones that provide the vision, the budget. They plan for evaluation and motivate the congregation to use the communications that the communication creators create. You can use both staff and volunteers to create all of the things that people need because you want to use the congregation as the ones who do the inviting, who interact at the event, who do the follow-up. You want to give them the postcards, the invitation cards, the things where they are the ones who are passing out the materials to their friends. Your congregation is your most important communication resource of everything that I have here because they are the ones who actually reach out and touch the unchurched people in your communities. Now, here's how the all-church team works together. The church communicators create the various communication pieces in the many formats. Leaders motivate the congregation. On social media, they can say things like, pass on this invitation, inspiration, tweet, post, video, whatever. So too, one thing that works out really well, you can say something like, okay, in your bulletin, you'll see 5 postcards or door hangers or invitations or whatever print thing you might put together. And just say, I want you to take this home, Pray about it. I'm sure you've got 5 friends, neighbors, acquaintances, people you see at Starbucks or the grocery store or whatever. Use this to invite them to come to our event. Also, you can create downloadable resources. I've done this some years where I put together an evangelistic Christmas letter that people can download, print out, put in their Christmas cards. There's a lot of things that you can do to equip your congregation for them to actually do the communicating. Your people then are the ones that distribute, they invite, they pray for their friends and the people that they have invited to come. Your people are your distribution system. And much more important than even the savings in time and money that the church staff will experience doing it this way, this is evangelism and discipleship training in action. The benefits of this plan. Outreach becomes something the entire church does for special and seasonal events. It can work for in-person and online events. It works across the board. This is so important because outreach is not something that the leadership buys. It is much more cost effective, but it is also a spiritual growth experience for everyone. If it's successful, everybody's successful. The whole church is successful because the whole church has been involved in the process. If not, everyone shares in the responsibility and everyone grows from the process and everyone is obedient to the Great Commission. Now, how to continue in the process. Record whatever numbers you had in response to prevent self-deception, and not only how many attend, but how many are new and how many come back. But don't ever use evaluation in a negative way. Make evaluation time a time to celebrate. Celebrate the guests contacted, the work of your congregation. Go over the process, what everybody did to make it successful, and pray lots for follow-up and ongoing interactions. Plan for your next seasonal event. On the Effective Church Communication site, I've got lots of ideas, and every holiday has a different emphasis and a different audience to reach. Every holiday can have an outreach theme, a ministry purpose, a teaching topic. For example, Mother's Day. Now, this is something that I have a completely different approach to than many people take. Mother's Day isn't just to celebrate moms. Mother's Day at church can be one of the best times for outreach ever. It gets more people attending than any other Sunday except for Easter. And the reason is, it isn't because of the moms. It isn't because they're there. They're there every Sunday. It's because the unchurched children and husbands come maybe on that Sunday, maybe when they won't come at any other time. So you see, it's a key time for evangelism. On the Effective Church Communication site, I've got lots of material for you on that, but this is really important. For Father's Day, it's an opportunity to launch or grow your men's ministry. Halloween can be a very interesting time to explore the spiritual world and life after death. Now, there are so many benefits when this process is repeated. When seasonal events come along, your congregation knows you'll give them invitations and encouragements to invite their friends. When this process becomes part of the ongoing DNA of the church, you will have an ongoing way to involve your people in outreach, to let visitors know about your church, and a way to follow up with them, introduce them to Jesus, and integrate them into your church. By this program of total participation, your church will naturally grow in numbers and your congregation in spiritual maturity. Finally, in all you do, keep in mind we only have a short time to do this because one day celebrations will not be isolated events, as C.S. Lewis reminds us when he said, "Joy is the serious business of heaven." In response, we work hard today so many will join us in the eternal celebration with no end. For the templates, for the books, for additional videos and training lessons, and so much more, go to www.effectivechurchcom.com. And now may the Lord bless you, give you joy, strength, and wisdom as you serve Him today in church communications.